Welcome to the Smart Weight Loss Coaching Podcast. I'm Dr. Lisa Olson, a board-certified weight loss medicine specialist and certified life coach. In this podcast, I'll share fresh insights and effective techniques for incorporating mindset, habit change, and proven science into your life. Are you ready to achieve sustainable weight loss, wellness, and longevity? Then let's jump in and lose weight the smart way. Welcome back. Let's start today's episode on thought interrupting with a joke my kids used to tell when they were little. My daughter has reluctantly agreed to demo the joke with me. Here we go.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Interrupting
Moo!
Thanks, Amelia. That joke will always be adorable to me. Do you ever find yourself replaying a conversation or situation over and over in your mind? Maybe you can't sleep because you keep thinking about what someone said or did. You're not alone. Many people find themselves ruminating about a brutal day at work or spinning from hurtful things that are happening in a relationship. Any type of ruminating thoughts can create a feeling of mental exhaustion, and that can impact our actions, which in turn impacts our weight and our health. You may not identify as a stress eater, but if you ever catch yourself lying in bed at night, replaying a conversation, and getting upset about how things played out, I guarantee it impacts your health and your weight, directly or indirectly. This week, I caught myself doing this very type of rumination, which is not something I do often anymore. I missed the opportunity to interrupt those negative thoughts, but I grabbed a little learning for the next time something like this happens. It's so normal to miss the opportunity to interrupt our brooding thoughts, but there is great learning to be had when we catch these moments and dissect what happened like a scientist, looking for the facts, without adding in our own thoughts, emotions, and interpretations. I no longer judge myself for minor lapses like this. I dissect, reflect, grab the learning, and move on. You can too. So here's what happened. We had a new fence installed this week, and there were a bunch of minor glitches. First, they cut our Wi-Fi line, which led to a mad scramble to find an office to rent for the day because I had a live webinar class for our Smart Weight Loss Coaching program. These weekly webinars are important to me, and I do a lot of preparation to make them engaging, informative, and motivational for the women in our weight loss program. I have to have Wi-Fi for this. It was particularly frustrating because I showed the fence guys exactly where the Wi-Fi line was and said, "Please don't cut right here. This is where our Wi-Fi line is buried." But an hour later, they did cut there, and our Wi-Fi disappeared while my husband and I were both working from home. Then they threw away some fence hardware we wanted to save, put a bunch of plants they killed into our recycling bin, which I had to remove, and they put the fence door on backward, so the only way to get in and out of our yard was to step on our flowers, press into a bush, and squeeze through the gate against the house. They also built the door about 4 inches higher than the rest of the fence line, strangely. Admittedly, all of these were minor problems that were eventually fixed. At the end of the project, however, the owner wanted to charge me extra for a feature that was in the pictures they showed me when we first ordered the fence. I showed the owner of the company the email with the picture and the words, "This is what your fence will look like when it's done." But he still insisted that I had to pay extra for things that appeared to be included based on that photo. What triggered the thoughts that got me ruminating was the way he spoke to me. If he had spoken nicely, taken some ownership of the mistakes, and apologized, I would have probably paid the extra money, and I wouldn't have been annoyed about the many small mishaps. But he really talked down to me. He implied that I was not that bright if I assumed the pictures attached to the proposal were meant to be precisely what we could expect in our fence. So I started ruminating. I kept thinking about his tone and his attitude. I imagined what he was thinking when he spoke to me, and I started spinning about how he only spoke to me so rudely because I was a woman, and so on. Ideally, this would be the moment when I would think, stop. What are these thoughts doing for me? I could have tapped into my thought interrupting techniques. But being human, I missed the opportunity this time. Instead, I chose thoughts like, he's belittling me and he's taking advantage of me, and he would never speak to my husband this way. Those thoughts made me feel disempowered and marginalized. I felt dismissed. And when I felt disempowered, guess what I did about dinner? I ordered in, even though I had plenty of time to cook. Here's what I'd like you to notice about the situation. The owner of the fence company didn't make me feel disempowered. I made myself feel disempowered by thinking he's belittling me. And once I felt disempowered, I acted in a disempowered way. I just ordered food that wasn't the healthiest because it was easy comfort food. By ordering that food for dinner, I actually added a bit of fuel to the fire. I reinforced the feeling of being powerless to deal with the fence guy, and powerless to take charge of a healthy meal for myself and my family. The fence guy didn't make me eat an unhealthy dinner. I created that action by choosing thoughts that made me feel disempowered. But don't worry, with practice, we can interrupt thoughts that don't serve us and stop ourselves from ruminating. In fact, I would say I've gotten pretty good about this, but I think that navigating multiple errors with the fence and then dealing with the AT&T Wi-Fi folks wore me down a bit. That's pretty typical, right? When we work on a skill like interrupting thoughts that don't serve us, we get good at it, but it's still possible to overload the system and fall back into old patterns. The question is, what do you make it mean when that happens? In my case, I'm not making it mean anything negative about myself. I'm just making it mean that I'm human. My brain's stress management system got a bit overloaded with a bunch of little nuisances landing at the same time. I'm actually pretty proud of the fact that I rarely ruminate these days. I've practiced a skill called thought interrupting for years now, and it's an incredibly helpful strategy. But I understand that old habits die hard, and it's not a drama that I missed the boat this time. So how do we stop ruminating? Let's look at the technique of thought interrupting. First, simply notice that you're ruminating. Name it to tame it by observing to yourself, I'm really ruminating and spinning in negative thoughts about this situation. Then, to stop the thought, simply tell yourself, stop. Or try visualizing a stop sign in your mind. Hold up your flat hand in a stop gesture. Or you might prefer to press a pause button. That works too. Literally, push the air as if you're pressing pause. Next, dissect the thought and notice that you created it. Don't try to suppress the thought. Acknowledge it exists without dwelling on it, but consider if there's more than one way to think about the situation. Finally, replace the thought. You don't have to come up with a fake positive thought. That's not believable. But you might find a more neutral thought. For example, it's not a fact that the fence guy was trying to belittle me. That's my interpretation, but it's not the only interpretation. Now that I recognize that, I have evidence that the thought, he's belittling me, may not reflect the reality of the situation. I can replace that thought with something more helpful, more neutral. This might be something like, I'm sure it's frustrating when your employees send emails and pictures saying the fence will look this way without mentioning that there's an extra cost to these features. I'm sure it's also frustrating when your fence installation team makes mistakes that cost an extra half day of work. His tone may have reflected his frustration with his employees and may have had nothing to do with me at all. The fact is, he may or may not have been belittling me, but it wasn't serving me to ruminate over it. This more neutral interpretation diffused my feelings of disempowerment and stopped my brooding. Now that I'm no longer spinning in frustration, I'm feeling neutral about the fence and can actually appreciate that it looks great. Moving on. Now this weekend, I'll enjoy my upgraded backyard and I'll make some healthy food for myself and my family. Let's quickly recap. If you catch yourself ruminating, the first thing to do is to notice it. Ask yourself, what are those thoughts doing for you? Next, hit that pause button or hold up that stop sign to interrupt those unintentional and unhelpful thoughts. Get curious. Can you reframe your thoughts about the situation? Did you treat something like a fact when it was actually just your thought or interpretation? Notice that you can change your feelings by replacing the thought with something a little more neutral. That doesn't mean giving a free pass to someone who isn't treating you fairly. It simply means you're not going to compound the problem by allowing yourself to spin in negativity. Reframe the situation to neutralize its impact and see how that changes the way you take care of yourself. Maybe you'll feel better. Maybe you'll eat something healthy. Maybe you'll take a walk to decompress and reduce your stress. What's your MBA today? Your next best action? After listening to this, perhaps you want to try pressing the pause button the next time you catch yourself ruminating about something someone has said to you. Maybe you want to write down the facts in your journal to see if laying it out in black and white makes it easier to find your assumptions and negative thoughts. Or maybe you'd like to practice reminding yourself that you have the power to change your thoughts, your feelings, and ultimately your actions by noticing those unintentional thoughts. Another MBA you might choose: tell the interrupting cow joke to a kid. It's always good for a laugh. Thanks so much for listening. If you'd like more support during your smart weight loss journey, check out our group coaching program at smartweightlosscoaching.com. Until next time, stay well and stay smart.